Johnny Fontana, Real World NF Scorpio, back with another video. Now I'm here with my wife, who is a Capricorn. I mean, there's no there's no mystery about that in terms of how we relate, how her personality is and so forth and so on. So I haven't really dove into the Capricorn personality, more so the ESTP, but regardless of the fact, today we're just going to talk about some of the qualities that both of us possess in terms of being able to keep this relationship going, because we've been married for 14 years now. And so a lot of the controlling aspects come into play, but I think on both of our ends. So I guess it's more of us just having this conversation about really seeing how it all fits in. And obviously, as the conversation progresses, we'll be able to sort of figure things out. But it's like a lot of the time Scorpios get a bad rap when it comes to controlling, right? And we've discussed this before. Even you said, right, that someone who recently got a divorce, and they too are Scorpio. She's a female, and she said that it's what she admitted to you, right? What did she actually admit to you?
So what she admitted to me, and she said that she believes one of the reasons marriage did not work out was her controlling ways. And in a sense of controlling ways were to keep telling her that husband is constantly what to do, and then he needs to do this, and this, etc. So basically, the Scorpio is pretty self-aware of those things, I believe, in a lot of ways. However, I think there's one more aspect that comes into play for things to work and things like that, is that one thing is Scorpios don't mean anything bad. They don't actually come from controlling places, some form of narcissism or anything like that. They just see something and they pursue it. So if they see something in you as a potential you need to do to grow, they will point out to you. So I think in that specific case of somebody that I know, I think it was one of those cases that the person did not know their own potential in progress, what Scorpio saw. She saw this, and this for them to progress together, but the person is not ready to receive it.
Which is why in my other video I said, most people misperceive our controlling as if we're just trying to dominate and
boss them around, dominate. Yeah.
Well, number one is that we just naturally have that tendency, right? Just naturally we want to help, because that's who we are, because we see certain things and we want to lend that helping hand.
Is it because you future projected?
Not only that, well, because of it's a combination of the fact that we have empathy, okay? We understand where people are coming from, and along with that, we can see certain things that others aren't aware of. So you combine the fact that, hey, I really, understand your pain. I understand your direction. I understand this. I understand what have you. Coupled with the fact that we can look at you and identify certain traits, certain qualities in you, right, that you may be missing, as you pointed out before, and coupled with the fact that because we see these things, we empathize, we have a tendency of now articulating it and vocalizing it. But to your point before, I was going to make a point, is that during my previous video, I said that people misperceive our controlling as just basically just bossing around, unlike someone like you who can be pretty bossy just because that's your nature. We boss when you aren't on your purpose. Or it's considered bossing when you're not on your purpose. Meaning, if you have your stuff together, if you're on your purpose, then yeah, we can still have those controlling ways, but it doesn't come across that because you don't consider it like that. So for example, me and you, like,
I am able to see step beyond that. And I always because you know what it is?
Mm-hmm.
Because I am off the bat from experience of years and years of whatnot, know that it never comes from that place. And because I know it's not coming from that place, my mind by default right away sets into the gear like, where's he coming from? You know what I mean? Immediately, instead of my first reaction being like, yeah, okay, know your place, step away. We are like, okay, well, he's trying to say because what does he see? I start asking these questions in your mind because I know it's actually not to demean me down, or it's more like to make you better, almost like a thing.
Yeah, but here's the thing though. For you as well, what helps in our dynamic is that you can allow me to have those controlling ways, whatever, if I see certain things I pointed out. But at the same time, you too can offer your controlling ways as well. So it's not like all me controlling.
Yeah, it's give and take.
So for example, like so for example today, like we were looking at the car and you were like, okay, let me get the keys. And you said it in a bossy way, but it's like, again, it's just who you are. It's just your natural way. So, for example, I was gonna take the glue, and I was gonna just, wherever I was gonna apply the crazy glue, and you were like, no, like do it under a piece of paper, do it that. So again, that's your ways of controlling. But hold on,
let me explain my controlling ways. I have to back it up.
Hold on. But 10 minutes ago, when we were driving, you parked in your space where you normally park your because we were driving my car, and I told you no, back up and then get into my space. Well, it was an inconvenience for you because you're like, oh, now I have to back up, whatever. So we have these controlling things where we both.
But I think we naturally, instinctively can put them on the shelves of importance. You know what I mean? Like, I parked there. Technically, I could have been like, oh, what's the big deal? It's not a big deal. Who cares which car is on right and left side? But at the same time, I'm like, all right, he wants it. I make him happy. Is it a big deal for me? Not really. It takes 30 seconds.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? So I think it's like a give and take. Okay. I still believe that it's not a big deal.
Okay. No. But question, no. But now, how is it that, so for example, as a Scorpio, and then I guess this is for like those Scorpios who are getting into relationships or who are currently in relationships with others, and just people just who want to know the dynamics and understand, how is it that, for example, I can maintain my controlling ways? I can control who I am, but also you now have that ability to understand me, know when I'm being deep in my ways and to leave me alone and not to whatever, and also not be so quick, So for example, if, something comes up and I ask you for something, you won't immediately snap and you'd be like, oh, I can't believe, why are you going that, like you won't take it to that point. You'll actually take it to a place where I can sort of relate, I can be who I am, but at the same time you still get your point across. Whereas others, they don't have the patience for our deep, intuition, our depth, our deep analytical ways.
Well, that's it. The reason things don't work out because people don't exercise these things. Look at it as an exercise, right? Mm-hmm. Everything is an exercise to make things work. In order to lose weight, you exercise and you control this and you're consistent with this, right? With anything, it's kind of the same thing. So you need to start paying attention, exercising, practicing, executing, and just learning eventually how to control things. There's one thing that always stuck with me forever. You remember when we used to watch this guy, years ago, Dr. Phil? There's one thing he ever said. If I ever take anything away from that show, there's one thing I can take away it stuck with me when he said, when you're in a relationship, every morning you wake up, you need to ask yourself one thing. What is that one thing I'm going to do today to make that person's life better? It's like so cliche, whatever people can quote, like, Hallmark cards, whatever. But it's true, I remember clearly these days when you were like in police and your job is to take out the trash, and you were doing like some crazy shifts, coming home and still doing reports, whatever. I said, you know what? Instead of bitching about taking out the trash for him at midnight when he comes home, I just take out the trash. You know what I mean? Like, it's like these little things, and I think in our case, it's always been like that. You always question, was that one thing I'm going to make her life better? And me, time after time, I always clock in and say, okay, what is that one thing like? You know what I mean? That's exercising patience.
Okay, but why do you think that you can deal with me? Again, I can be difficult, I can be complicated. What do you think? Why is it that you think you can? Okay, when we first started dating, it was difficult because I said, remember you said because over time, the process, like I said in my other video, yes, like you can't expect a Scorpio and any other personality to just immediately get it on. It takes grooming, years of cultivating, years of communicating and understanding each other in order to pass through that threshold. Because once you pass through that threshold, then it's basically easy sailing from there. It's just, you go through your stuff. But initially, remember, like, we had a hard time.
I was even questioning why I even bother. But you know what it is?
Why?
Okay. Some people not like my answer because it's going to be like, oh, well, that makes sense why she stayed with him. You know what I mean? Skip that. Skip that thought from what I'm about to say. But I think it did play the role, the fact that I grew up around a lot of Scorpios. Gave me immediate understanding, and like a lot of family Scorpios around me. A lot. Grandma, cousin, brother, sister, father. I mean, like immediate family. So I think that's one thing. Just on an instinct level, there's a level of recognition of the dynamic and the people without even consciously being there as a child and whatnot. And I think that, like, one secret word I said is the father. Because I remember when I was dating you, and I said it, I've been saying this for years, I believe I picked you from the level of subconscious, not rationale. And I think it's recognition. I recognize behaviors, I recognize its familiarity, but now being together for years and years and years and cultivating this, now I actually have explanations of all those things.
Of
what those people are, how they were, why. Even though it's a lot of similarities, at the same time, a lot of differences. A lot of differences, but at the same time, quite a few things are similarities. My dad was quiet doer in the name of good of others, right? So there was a lot of that. So it's like, but at the same time, my father had a lot of like superiority complex, but not from a bad place. Like my dad would randomly say things like, coming out of meetings, he was an architect, he would come out of meetings and he says, it doesn't matter what I wear, my words kill them. Like stuff like that he would randomly say,